I want my men to bring a charge of conspiracy to commit fraud, murder, and rape against Viggo Mortensen and the men who belong to the organization called Gail's Men Going Their Own Way. The problem is they're not going their own way. They are in a conspiracy to commit fraud. And the reason I say this is because Viggo Mortensen was able to make brain-to-brain loving with me when Brent was unavailable by impersonating Brent, by lying and saying that he was Brent to me, brain to brain, which, that in itself, I was willing to forgive him for it. And so when he told me in January, this month, after I found out that he lied to me, that he said he was wrong and that he was sorry, and then I made love to him as Viggo Mortensen, saying I forgave him. But he was telling my men something totally different. He was telling my men that I was a thut. Yeah, he said I was a thut because he succeeded in raping me. Basically, that's what he did. He raped me. And then he had the gall to blame me, the rape victim, for falling for his con. And just because I don't know what's going on in that twisted mind of his, because my men did reads on him and he says he believes what he says, that I'm a thut and all this. But a lot of rapists are like that. They actually think that their victim enjoyed the rape. And, thinking that he was Brent, I'm feeling I'm going to sneeze. I did have some orgasms with him, but I thought he was Brent. And to be honest with you, I was feeling kind of guilty about not giving Brent enough brain-to-brain loving in the past year. Viggo has tried. The problem with Viggo, and the reason he's guilty of conspiracy to commit fraud, is first of all, he's lying about me. I was not unfaithful to Brent because, first of all, I thought he was Brent. So I thought I was making love to Brent. So how could that be unfaithful to Brent? And first of all, I have not had actual sex with him. It's brain-to-brain sex, so I don't consider brain-to-brain sex actual sex. So the problem is, though, is he's going around telling people that I've had actual sex with him, and that it's because I'm a thut, T-H-O-T, a thut, and he's using that as the basis with which to recruit followers who spend all day talking bad about me, saying defamatory things about me in order to take away from our support base. He's trying to recruit Church of Gail members and young millennial men to join him in his alliance with Lori McBride, who is a rapist, murderer, and tyrant, and that's a conspiracy. It's because he's joined with Lori McBride, he's part of a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy to commit fraud, murder, and rape. And then he has the gall to defame the victims. And he's calling Brent Spiner my cuck, because he says that I have, first, like I said in my previous video, the marriage list was not my idea. And I've made new rules now. No man can be on my marriage list unless they read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, and unless they've read Bible for Tribulation Saints from December 2011 to January 2017. And they got to take a vow saying that they promise to help me in my fight for Jesus, in my support of Jesus, and in my opposition of Satan and Satan's followers like Lori McBride. And if they break that vow, then they deserve to die. We do a brain read on them, and if they flunk that, they get off my marriage list. So that should weed out a lot of bad eggs. The problem is, though, is Viggo has organized a group based on lies about me, where he's actually committed defamation against me, accusing me of being unfaithful to Brent when I was not, because the only time I made Brent to Viggo as himself, I think, was one time in January, and that's when he lied again and said he was sorry and that he'd lied about me and he was sorry and he apologized. And then I made love to him, saying I forgive him and that's okay. But that didn't, but he was just lying to me. He was manipulating me. He wasn't really sorry because he was telling my men a totally different story. And he's trying to recruit people to oppose me and my men. And he's aligned himself with Laurie McBride, who is a convicted rapist, murderer, liar. She drops yeast bombs and all sorts of Nukkake bombs over the population. She's guilty of murdering at least 1 million people. And Viggo Mortensen has had sex with her 24/7. So he's a Laurie McBride Jesuit. And anybody under him is a Laurie McBride Jesuit. That's a death penalty violation of conspiracy law. The problem that we have, this is a conspiracy to commit rape, treason, murder, fraud. All of those. Hit him with a lawsuit for all of that. On top of the executions, because we're not able to get all of them. Laurie McBride is protecting many of these evil people. For conspiracy law purposes, anybody who belongs to this organization called Gail's Men Going Their Own Way are now considered Laurie McBride Jesuits under conspiracy law. And I am going to hit Laurie McBride Jesuits, including Gail's Men Going Their Own Way, with a lawsuit for conspiracy to commit fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, conspiracy to commit rape, and conspiracy to commit treason. All of them. Hit them with all of that. They all get the death penalty, plus we're going to sue their butts off for all those charges. And they're guilty of everything there. You know what Laurie McBride has done? She gained an entrance as a Jesuit in 1992 by drug raping Brent by spiking his beer with brain-controlled drugs. She used that as the basis with which to gain an entrance, and she, like Viggo impersonated Brent, she impersonated me to Brent. So Brent made love to her under her brain-controlled drugs, which actually made him nauseated, and so that he threw up because the drugs were so, made him nauseated. But she made love to him over a period of 3 weeks, impersonating me to Brent. So Brent thought he was making love to me instead of her. And when Brent found out that he had made love to her, he was horrified. The problem is she took pictures of the whole thing and she submitted them to the Paramount executives who were working with her. They were Jesuits too. So they need to also be sued as part of this conspiracy to commit murder, rape, fraud. Go after the Paramount Hollywood executives who were part of this conspiracy. We're going to sue them. Sue them all. And because they're Laurie McBride Jesuits. Any Hollywood executive out there that's working with Laurie McBride is part of the conspiracy to commit fraud, rape, murder, and all that. Go after her, man. Laurie McBride has pretty much taken over Hollywood, and that's pretty obvious now since most of these 10,000 men are Hollywood guys. They're celebrities. Viggo Mortensen's their head, and their celebrity has gotten to their head. They're so evil right now that they think they have the right to rape. And they're just like the sinners in Genesis 19. They're just like Sodom and Gomorrah, who knocked on Lot's door and said, "You, those 2 angels that came and visited you, we want to rape them." And he said, "Oh no, don't do this. This is wicked." They said, "Who are you to tell us what to do? You live in our town, and you're going to tell us what to do. We have the right to have sex with whoever we want to have sex with." Sounds kind of like Viggo Mortensen and his group of Gail's Men Going Their Own Way. Similar attitude. So the angels said, "You're going to get out of here, Locke. God's going to send fire and brimstone on this town." Now, a lot of people say that God punished Sodom and Gomorrah for homosexuality. No, the Bible says it was just a wicked town. Now, they happened to be predominantly homosexual. That was just a coincidence. I think it wasn't so much that they were homosexuals that they got punished. It was for violent, assaultive style sex. Did you know that Viggo and his men got mad at me when they were overhearing me talk and writing. They were watching me write to Terrence Jenkins on Skype, And I said that I would prefer when I marry to limit my sex to Brent Spiner, my husband, and maybe have sex with some of the other guys on the marriage list if, again, Brent gives me permission, but I really would like to limit it to about 10 at the most. They were furious. Their attitude was, they were saying, all we want is a little piece of the pie, Gail. Well, you know, the problem was, I came to this decision because Terrance was telling me that, you know, they got my vagina butts, which is my vagina in their butts, and they were making such violent love with each other that they were actually destroying some of the vagina butts. And Terrance Jenkins determined that if it was my vagina and they were making love to me like the way they were making love to each other or using the vagina butts, that they would have utterly destroyed my vagina and probably destroyed it to the point where they could have killed me. And they were mad at me because I didn't want them to do that to me. And when I heard how violent they were getting with each other, I said, you know what? I'm actually kind of a monogamous kind of a woman. And the only reason I had the marriage list was because that was Brendan Vladimir's idea. It was never my idea to have a marriage list. And, you know, it's now I've decided that the marriage list has really gotten too far, too many. So my last video I made, I said, you know, I've laid some laws down about who can be on my marriage list. So that's what they got mad about. But very prideful men they are. They're lying and saying that the real reason they left me, they're saying, oh, she didn't reject us. We rejected her. Yeah, and we're going our own way. Yeah, you're going your own way. That's why you've aligned yourself with my arch enemy. Sounds like there's a lot of resentment there because I didn't want to have sex with them the way they wanted to have sex. You know, they basically have the same attitude that Laurie McBride has. She forced herself on Brent Spiner, and she got control over Hollywood and got control over the mainstream media, and she's been lying about Brent. She was able to obtain Brent's semen from her drug rape of him in September 1992. She used that to artificially inseminate herself, and she created Jackson Spiner, who was created as a result of semen she stole through rape. And she's using him as a weapon to cement her lie to the world that she's the legit wife of Brent Spiner. And she's also created a Brent Spiner clone who is a Cuckosaurus Rex who works with her in her crimes. He's also guilty. And the Cuckosaurus Rex Brent Spiner clone has taken over Brent's Twitter. To make a long story short, Viggo Mortensen has now aligned himself with Laurie McBride 100%. Which makes him a Laurie McBride Jesuit worthy of the death penalty. But I want you to not only go after them for the death penalty, we need to sue them as well. Viggo Mortensen is a Laurie McBride Jesuit now. Also, what happened to Matthew McConaughey with Camilla Alves? I've made a lot of videos about this. She also used rape to gain entrance to bomb rape. She basically threatened to blow Matthew up if he wouldn't have sex with her, and she did that to him 3 times, getting at least 3 times, and getting pregnant 3 times as a result of the rape, and then using the babies as weapons to cement her lie to the world. She also created a Matthew McConaughey clone, who is a shallow version of the real Matthew. Basically, what Laurie and Viggo want to do is murder my real men and murder me so they can reign over the world as sexual tyrants, forcing their sex on the world. And if you don't comply, they will lie about you. And if you don't like the arrangement, they'll lie about you. They'll try to kill you. And it's a conspiracy to commit rape. That's what it is. So I want you to hit them. I want you to hit Viggo Mortensen and his Gail's men going after their own way group, along with the Laurie McBride Jesuits, with a lawsuit for conspiracy to commit fraud, rape, murder, treason. All of those. We're going to sue them. They're trying to sue us. They've got the gall to sue us for harassment when they're guilty of a conspiracy to commit rape, fraud, treason, fraud. I mean, you know, all that, the whole thing. And they're going after us because we're trying to defend ourselves against them. And then she drops the conspiracy to commit, she's dropping bombs everywhere that's killed at least 1 million people, yeast bombs. Go after them, man. Sue their butts off. And they're a bunch of hypocrites. But just because we don't like the marriage partners they choose for us, they lie about us and try to force them on us.